Chapter 6. Lost. Candy corn. Trick or treat. Once upon a time, a girl's head broke out of the ocean and her lungs filled with cold, biting air. The darkness scared her. The throb under the sea just became too intense. Her lungs demanded air and she was too frightened to disobey. There were creatures under the water. One she could feel and hear, but couldn't see. So up she went, inhaling shakily, her chest heaving painfully with Cole's hand pressed against it, holding her back, forcing her breathing to be labored. Her body was quickly numbing up, and with the numbness, her breathing became less erratic. Deciding she needed a breather with her newfound ease, she floated onto her back, letting her hair glide behind her like Medusa's snakes. But the ocean was still thick and oily. It weaved in and out from between her legs. It opened her dress. It felt as if thick hands were on her all at once, threatening to capsize her, to invade her. She wanted to escape, to get away from it all. But how can you escape when everywhere you go is filled with the same uncaring emptiness? And in an ocean where no one's around, if you need help, who will hear your cry? I don't remember everything, only bits and pieces. Individual episodes that let me know that it really did happen, several times, possibly over a period of years. Sometimes I think I've gotten over it, but once I start discussing it with an in-the-know family member, thinking that I have everything under control, my throat closes up and tears start to fall. A black cloud descends and my heart starts to ache. I start to feel small and helpless all over again. Obviously, I haven't gotten over it, and occasionally I wonder if remembering it all will help me purge the demon of the memory. But thus far, that hasn't happened, and I'm afraid of it starting to happen with you. I haven't discussed it with anyone outside of my immediate family before, but even as a child, I promised myself that I would tell my fiancé about the incident, just in case. I don't want to recoil from your touch or back up screaming, flailing and crying whenever you try to be intimate with me. If any of that happens, I want to be sure that you understand why and know that it isn't your fault. Now, you're probably feeling creeped out at this point. Obviously, you aren't my fiancé, and we don't even know each other well enough for this deep of a confession to be warranted. But I feel that you need to know a large part of why I am the way that I am. This should shed some light on some of the darkness that is me. Where to start? I guess I'll tell you the bits and pieces that I can recall as you're smart enough to put them together. Essentially, I remember being led down a creepy hallway in our century-old apartment down to the bathroom. My parents had left to go grocery shopping, they said, and I stayed home with my mass of select relatives and friends. My parents did this every Saturday, or at least that's how it felt to me at the time. We were always told to stay together in the parlor whenever they went out. In other words, watch TV, don't cause any trouble, and don't leave the parlor for anything. That is, unless you need to go to the bathroom. So, I guess no one questioned it when I was led down the hallway to hell with an older relative in tow. I have a theory that evil likes to kill the innocent. Anyone with bad intentions, ill will, jealousy against you will want to crush out the naive trust, the smiles, the happiness, even just the pure contentedness inside of you. They want you to grow up, to see the world for what it is, because only grown-ups know what the world is, right? It has nothing to do with them as individuals, though. It's always others, isn't it? Who knows what someone else will do to you? People could hurt, steal, rape you, murder you, cut you into bits, and bless the pieces with common blood before burning you or flinging you in the ocean or hurling you like trash out of a moving rapist van on the side of the highway. There is nothing good left in the world. There is nothing to look forward to. But none of this has to do with us. It's always them. That's what growing up really is, figuring that out. Because close family and friends can't hurt you, they would never want to hurt you. They are the only ones you can trust, right? Don't ask me how it all started. I honestly can't remember. My brain's smart enough to know that my consciously knowing about this would cause me to spontaneously combust. Even someone like me can't handle that level of crazy. But I do remember certain episodes. Who knows? Maybe they were the mild ones. From what one relative recalled years later and told me, they must have been. Essentially, I would always be led to either the bedroom near the bathroom or to the bathroom directly. Let's start with the main physical offender, the bathroom. Once inside, a towel would be draped on the ground like a red carpet. Whether it was a used towel or not, I can't recall. For the sake of what little hygiene I had at the time, I certainly hoped it was the latter. I would lie on my back, and he would be over me doing his thing. Sometimes it would be a beautiful blue day, and I'd watch the sun coming in through the window. Over time, after this became routine, I remember shifting my head to the right and staring at the dirty, dusty, and cream-colored footstool near my head. I would try to notice little details about it that I didn't notice before, and it would help me pass the time for a little bit. I remember being submissive in the beginning, though later on, near the end of it all, I would start getting antsy, even borderline defiant. That's when he had to do one of the worst tricks he ever played on me. That was the moment I would always remember. The biggest reason why I always blamed myself and felt like the stupidest, most selfish fool in the world. That was the day he promised me the Disney fork. He was kind of an intriguing mystery. Smart and well-liked, he had experiences and opportunities I never did. And one of those experiences was him going to Disney and bringing back a decorative fork. Truthfully now, it's shameful. I barely remember what the damn thing looked like. But I do remember its many ridges and textures, and that I loved to run my fingers over it on the rare occasions that he would take it out, when he wasn't taking out something else. He had known that I admired that fork, that I always had a special interest in it. So it didn't take him long to soften my defiance for his own ends. I don't remember if he took me to the bathroom first or not, but I'm pretty sure he gave me a piggyback ride down that hallway of doom. Along the way, he mentioned something about the bathroom, and I, in my quiet way, defied him by weakly protesting. And so he decided to bring me to the eerie room near the bathroom. I never felt comfortable in there. There had to be ghosts or demons in that room, and it was always drafty, and I swear there was someone watching me. There was also a white-doored closet with a scratched black doorknob that was creepy beyond my power to describe it. So naturally he took me there, looked through his bag, and took out his ace in the hole, the Disney fork. He held it out to me and offered it to me in exchange for my soul. Now, I'm not proud of myself for this. I always had a strangely strong sense of selfishness that made me incredibly stubborn and greedy. Most of the time, I would try to fight the urges, and that feeling strengthened after this incident. He gave me the fork. I don't remember where I put it or how I kept it on me during my soul-sucking time. Maybe he just held on to it and promised to relinquish it after my doomsday. But the bastard somehow stole it back. I never saw that fork ever again. And coward that I am, I never fought for it. I suffered and died for nothing. There too was a time when my defiance flared for what I believe was the last time before my growth and the many threats that came with that pushed his paranoia to the brink. It too was done in a cowardly way, as my early years were defined by a shameful cowardice, which sadly, though not surprisingly, plagues me still. So maybe it wasn't necessarily defiance, but it sure as fuck was the final straw. It was one of the days that I stared at the dirty nude bench, my companion in crime, my only witness. But I didn't admire it this time. I just kind of stared at its imperfections, its shape, silently scoffing at its overall dinginess. I felt both bitter, mellow, and oddly numb, far away, but in the moment, all at once. After that, I remember sitting on the toilet lid as he wanked himself above me. I moved my head to the side, avoiding looking at him, since I have this weird thing where I don't like to look at other people's bodies or things. We're always told as children to do and not do things according to what we'd prefer, and I always hated being stared at, so I didn't do it to others. I had on my favorite casual summer dress that day, which made me feel beautiful whenever I wore it. Looking back, I think even then I knew the dress was pretty ugly. It had a sun on it, hence I very uncreatively, though very practically, called it my sundress. And it was primarily white and green. Really, the color scheme alone was pretty ugly anyway. particularly since the green was an unflattering mixture of blue and almost military style green. But it always made me feel so girly and delicate in it, very desirable. Maybe it was just the way it flowed on me that made me feel that way, but regardless, in my mind, it was one of my favorite dresses. Oh my man, God. He was wanking and I was there in my pretty ugly sundress. Now what do you think happened next? As you are a man, and I doubt cum is completely foreign to you, I think you can accurately conjecture what happened and even guess how I felt about it all. Naturally, sprinkles of potent white flax and globules were flung all over my pretty ugly dress. My defiance was evident in the strength of my silence and of the cruel thoughts and feelings I flung his way, just like he had flung his weakness at me. Yet even in my silent outrage, I had noticed how half-heartedly he did things now, how paranoid he was. That was probably for any number of reasons, and I'm sure there were many, but I suspect that he was just jaded with everything. The game just wasn't fun anymore. He needed something new and exciting, even if it was just something that reacted to what he'd done, and I was no longer it. The novelty had worn off. It was just habit now, routine. He kept trying as a vain attempt at feeling something remotely pleasurable, but it just wasn't working anymore. Plus, logistically, it was smarter for him to stop and to stop soon. I was getting older, and older meant baby-making abilities. So essentially, he knew the game was up. Needless to say, after that day, I never saw that dress again. I asked my mother one day where my sundress was, but the words died on my lips when I looked over at him, as he happened to be there that day. I don't know if he gave me a look. I feel like he just had his head down, as if that would stop people from accusing him of the mysterious disappearance of the sundress. And in that moment, I knew that he had destroyed or thrown away the dress to hide the evidence. And after this incident, I don't remember it continuing, though I honestly don't remember not even close to half of what I went through during that time. I can't even remember how long it lasted, how old I was, nothing. When I think of that time, my mind shuts down and I draw up blanks. I do remember the promise, though. He made me promise, pinky swear, man, the most solemn of oaths, not to tell anyone about any of this. Looking back, I think he knew that I would speak eventually. But back then, I was very loyal, very tight-lipped, so he had time. Plenty of it. I was true to my word and remained silent for an agonizingly long and torturous time. Aren't we always taught to listen to our elders?